The fluorescent lights of the ER buzzed like angry hornets. Their relentless hum, the only constant in a night that refused to end. I plunged the needle into the boy's chest. My hand steady despite the chaos, blood everywhere. His gasps turning to silence as the tension pneumothorax gave way under my scalpel's mercy. 5 years with Elias. And this was how I marked our anniversary, elbow deep in someone else's nightmare, whispering prayers that weren't for us. But as the monitors beeped their victorious rhythm and the team exhaled in collective relief, a hollow ache bloomed in my gut, sharper than any incision. Elias would be waiting at home in our cramped Brooklyn walk-up. The candles probably guttered out by now. The pasta congealed on plates he'd lovingly plated hours ago. I yanked off my gloves, the snap echoing like a gunshot in my mind, and bolted for the door, my sneakers squeaking on linoleum slick with the remnants of the fight for life. Little did I know, the real casualty was waiting in the shadows of our 5th-floor apartment, slipping away on currents of smoke I couldn't chase. I burst through the lobby doors into the biting October chill of New York City, the kind that clings to your bones like regret. My phone was dead again after a 12-hour shift that had stretched into 16. The battery surrendering just as the first ambulance sirens wailed in at dawn. No texts. No calls. Just the phantom vibration of Elias's voice in my head, teasing me about being late for once in my overachieving life. Brooks Harlan, the golden boy of Mount Sinai's ER, always saving the day, but failing spectacularly at the one heart that mattered most. The subway ride home was a blur of fluorescent purgatory, faces melting into one another under the rattle of the F train. I rehearsed my apology in my head, the kid with the collapsed lung, the car crash pileup, the endless parade of broken bodies that made my job both curse and calling. Elias would forgive Mayhay always did with that lopsided grin that crinkled the corners of his eyes. The one that said, "You're worth the wait, Doc." We'd laugh it off over reheated tiramisu, his fingers tracing lazy circles on my knee as we curled up on our thrift store couch, the city lights painting our skin in gold. Our building loomed like a weary sentinel on Atlantic Avenue, its brick facade scarred by decades of winters and whispered secrets. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my legs burning from the shift, heart pounding not from exertion but anticipation. The door to 5B creaked open under my key, and the apartment greeted me with an unnatural stillness. No jazz crooning from the record player, no scent of garlic and basil wafting from the kitchen, just the faint tang of smoke, acrid and unfamiliar, hanging in the air like a ghost's exhale. Elias. My voice cracked, swallowed by the empty living room. The dining table was set for 2, flickering tea lights long since snuffed. A bottle of our favorite Chianti uncorked and untouched, condensation beating on the glass like tears. His note was there, propped against my plate, the handwriting I knew better than my own bold loops and deliberate strokes, the kind that came from years of sketching urban landscapes in his notebooks. Brooks. I tried to wait, but waiting feels like dying a little each time. I need more than echoes. Love. E. The words blurred as my knees hit the floor, the paper crumpling in my fist. Smoke-faint wisps curling from the bedroom window, where he'd cracked it open to air out the chill, or maybe to let something go. His clothes were gone from the closet, the drawers half empty, his easel folded in the corner like a discarded promise. He'd slipped away, quiet as dawn, leaving me in the wreckage of what we'd built brick by painstaking brick. I sank onto the couch, the springs groaning under me, and let the sobs come raw. Guttural things that clawed their way out after years of being the strong one. How had we gotten here? 5 years ago, in the sticky heat of a Greenwich Village Pride parade, our eyes had locked over a sea of rainbow flags. And I'd known that this man, with his infectious laugh and artist soul, was the anchor I'd been drifting without. Elias Washington. 27 to my 28. A graphic designer from Harlem whose dreams painted the world in colors I never knew existed. And me, Brooks Harlan, small-town Ohio transplant turned ER resident, burying my queerness under white coats and good intentions until he pulled me into the light. But light cast shadows, and hours had grown long. The shifts that bled into days. The holidays traded for holidays. The anniversaries marked by voicemails instead of vows. I told myself it was noble saving lives, making a difference in a city that chewed people up and spat them out. Yet in that moment, cradling his note like a lifeline, I saw the truth. I'd been saving everyone but us. The night stretched into a vigil of memories, each one a knife twist. Our first date at that hole-in-the-wall falafel joint in the East Village, where he'd sketched my profile on a napkin, declaring me his muse with a stethoscope. The weekend in the Catskills. Rain drumming on the cabin roof as we confessed our fears mine of never being enough for a family that still whispered about that phase back in Dayton. His of being just another black, queer kid chasing visibility in a world that rendered him invisible. We'd promised then, under that leaky tin roof, to build something unbreakable. A life where love wasn't a luxury, but a necessity. Dawn crept in through the blinds, gray and unforgiving, as I forced myself upright. The ER called another shift, another siren song of purpose. But this time, as I scrubbed in and faced the fluorescent glare, Elias's absence was a phantom limb, aching with every suture. Colleagues clapped my back, praising the save from last night, but their words bounced off me like rain on pavement. What good were lives pulled from the brink if the one I cherished most had walked into the ether? Days blurred into a haze of caffeine and cathedrals of charts. I texted Elias a dozen times, voicemails piling up like unanswered prayers. I'm sorry. Come back. Let's fix this. Silence. His profile on Instagram froze on a sketch of the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. Captioned "Bridges burn, but memories linger." I scrolled through our photos, him asleep on my chest after a long day, me stealing kisses in Central Park, our hands intertwined at a candlelight vigil for Pulse survivors, tears mingling as we vowed to fight for a world kinder to loves like ours. One evening, after a particularly brutal code blue, a young trans kid, barely 19, lost to an overdose in a world that didn't see her, I found myself at his favorite spot, a bench overlooking the East River where he'd proposed we move in together 2 years back. The water churned dark and restless, mirroring the storm in my chest. I get it now, I whispered to the wind, as if he could hear. The weight of it all. How my absences carved holes in you that I couldn't stitch closed. That's when my phone buzzed, not Elias, but Jamie, my med school buddy turned confidant, her voice a lifeline through the speaker. Brooks, honey, you sound like death warmed over. Spill. I did. The words tumbling out in a torrent, the anniversary, the note, the smoke-scented void. She listened, then sighed. He's hurting. But so are you. Both of you. Pouring everything into survival. Remember why you fell for him. That fire. That unapologetic joy. Find it again for you. Not just for him. Her words ignited something. A spark in the ashes. I couldn't chase Elias across the city. That would be smothering the very independence he'd craved. Instead, I started small, therapy sessions squeezed between shifts. We're Dr. Rivera, no-nonsense Latina with eyes that saw through bullshit, peeled back the layers of my savior complex. You're not Atlas. Brooks. You can't carry the world and expect your love to bear the strain alone. Weeks turned to a fragile routine. I cooked for one, the portions mocking me, but I savored the quiet learning to be whole without him as my center. Pride Month approached, and I volunteered at the center in Chelsea, facilitating workshops for queer youth navigating family rejections, and identity storms. Their stories echoed ours. Elias's coming out at 16. Disowned by a father who preached fire and brimstone from the pulpit. My own closet. Bolted shut until college. When a fumbling hookup cracked it open. One humid June afternoon. As rainbow flags snapped in the breeze outside the center. A familiar laugh floated through the open window. My heart stuttered. Elias. Sketchpad in hand. Leading a session on visual storytelling for the kids. Our eyes met across the room. His widening in surprise. Then softening with that old warmth. No dramatic reunion. No sweeping declarations. Just a nod. And later, over coffee at the corner cafe. Words that bridged the gap like tentative brushstrokes. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you, he said, stirring his latte. Steam rising like fragile hope. I left because I was drowning in the waiting. Felt like I was loving a ghost. I nodded, throat tight. And I was too busy resurrecting strangers to notice I was killing us. We talked for hours raw. Unfiltered truths spilling out. The pressures of his freelance gigs drying up in a post-pandemic economy. My burnout masked as dedication. The unspoken fears of forever in a country where rights felt like sand slipping through fingers. Obergefell had given us marriage. But the world still whispered doubts. From street harassment to policy whiplash. That night, he came back not to stay, but to try. We set boundaries, date nights etched in stone. No shifts on anniversaries. Therapy for both. It wasn't fireworks. It was embers. Coaxed back to flame with patience and presence. Months later, as autumn leaves carpeted Prospect Park, we marked our 6th anniversary not with grand gestures, but a quiet picnic cheese, wine, and his latest sketch of us, intertwined under the same bridge that had witnessed our fractures. The ER still called. Lives still hung in the balance. But now I clocked out on time, trading scalpels for stolen moments. Elias's hand in mine felt like homecoming, solid and sure. We almost lost this, he murmured, as fireflies danced in the dusk. But we found our way back, I replied, pressing a kiss to his temple. Smoke clears. Love. And what's left is real. In the end, it wasn't about perfection or unbroken promises. It was the messy, human dance of showing up through the saves and the silences, the departures and returns. We'd emerged scarred but stronger. Two souls who'd learned that saving lives includes your own, and the ones woven into it. And in that fragile balance, we built not just a love, but a legacy of resilience. One heartbeat at a time. The park's hush enveloped us as the sun dipped lower, painting the skyline in hues of amber and rose. Elias leaned against my shoulder, his breath syncing with the rustle of leaves, a rhythm we'd almost forgotten how to share. 6 months since his return, and every day felt like reclaiming stolen ground, tentative steps on a path we'd both nearly abandoned. Work had been my fortress, a place where control reigned supreme amid the unpredictability of human fragility. Mount Sinai's ER was a battlefield of beeps and bleeds, where I thrived on the adrenaline, the puzzle of flesh and fate. But Elias had been right. It was devouring me whole. Dr. Rivera called it compassion fatigue, a polite term for the soul sickness that creeps in when you give until you're hollow. My first real boundary came on a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary day that tests resolve. A multi-car pileup on the FDR Drive flooded the bays with the walking wounded, fractured femurs. Concussions. A mother shielding her toddler from shards of glass. The charge nurse-eyed me as the clock ticked past 7 p.m. Harlan, we need you for the overflow. I hesitated, pager vibrating like an accusation in my pocket. Elias's face flashed his patient smile over breakfast that morning, promising falafel for dinner if I made it home by 8. Pass it to Patel, I said, voice steady despite the internal quake. I'm clocking out. The team stared, but no one argued. I'd earned my stripes in blood and overtime. The subway ride felt eternal. Each stop a temptation to turn back. But I pressed on, emerging into our street's familiar clamor. Elias was at the stove when I walked in, hips swaying to Coltrane's saxophone, the air thick with cumin and promise. "You're early," he said, turning with a grin that lit the dim kitchen like dawn. Miracles happen. I wrapped my arms around him from behind, chin on his shoulder, inhaling the life we'd nearly lost. Dinner was simple pita stuffed with spiced lamb. Stories swapped about his day pitching designs to a queer-owned startup. My recounting the pileup without the weight of carrying it alone. That night, tangled in sheets that still smelled faintly of his absence, we talked dreams deferred. Elias confessed his fear of stagnation, how the city's grind had dulled his creative edge, leaving sketches half-finished in drawers. "I want to exhibit," he admitted, vulnerability cracking his voice. "Not just for Mephoros, to show the world what we've built." I listened, really listened, without the mental tally of upcoming rounds. "Then do it. I'll help frame the damn things if I have to." His laugh bubbled up, warm and freeing. And in that sound, I glimpsed the man who'd first captivated men at the shadow of waiting, but the full blaze of his spirit. The exhibit came together in fits and starts, our apartment transforming into a whirlwind of canvas and critique. I'd come home to floors littered with charcoal studies of urban queer icons, Stonewall veterans with defiant gazes, trans activists mid-march, couples like us stealing kisses in hidden alleys. Elias's work pulsed with humanity, each stroke a testament to resilience, to loves that defied erasure. Opening night at the small gallery in Soho was a revelation. Friends from the center mingled with ER colleagues, Jamie toasting with her signature flair to Brooks, who finally learned to save his own heart. Elias's pieces hung under soft spotlights, drawing murmurs of awe. One, titled Echoes and Smoke, depicted a figure dissolving into city haze, hand outstretched toward a distant light-hour story, abstracted into something universal. He stood beside me, suit jacket slung over his shoulder, pride radiating like heat. "This is because of you," he whispered as a collector approached, eyes hungry for echoes. "No," I countered, squeezing his hand. "This is us." But joy, like all things hard-won, carried undercurrents. My father's call came the next week, a rare breach in our Ohio-New York divide. Dad, retired mechanic with hands still grease-stained from memory, had seen the exhibit blurb in some online queer arts feed courtesy of my meddling sister. "Proud of you, son," he grunted, voice thick. "Both of you." It was the first crack in his armor. The man who'd once suggested pray it away, now offering tentative alliance. Elias overheard, tears pricking his eyes later as we walked the High Line. "Your family's coming around. Mine. Well, Harlem's got its own timelines." His mother's passing 2 years prior had left scars, her quiet acceptance of his queerness a balm that faded too soon. His father's absence a void filled with what-ifs. We honored her that summer with a trip upstate, scattering petals in the Hudson where she'd fished as a girl. Elias sketched the river's bend, lines fluid as grief's release. Back in the city, challenges mounted like storm clouds. Elias's gig economy teetered, a major client bailed, citing budget cuts. Code for discomfort with his portfolio's unapologetic gay narratives. Rage simmered in him, fists clenched over eviction notices we juggled with my steady paycheck. "It's like they want us invisible again," he vented one night, pacing our living room. I pulled him down, grounding us both. "Then we'll make them see. Apply for that residency at the MoMA, affiliate, your work deserves it." His application was a labor of love, Pages of proposals pulsing with vision. Installations exploring queer temporalities. How time bends under societal pressure. Loves paused in waiting rooms of acceptance. We submitted it together. Fingers flying over keys. Laughter punctuating the late hours. Acceptance came on a crisp November morn. Email pinging as I brewed coffee. Elias hooped, lifting me off the floor in a spin that rattled the mugs. The residency meant stability as stipend. Studio space. A platform to amplify voices like his. But success bred its own tempests. Gallery openings pulled him into nights of networking, mirroring my ER marathons. We'd pass like ships. Notes on the fridge tallying missed calls. One such evening, after I'd covered a double for a colleague's wedding, I found him asleep on the couch. Sketchpad open to a half-formed portrait of mettered eyes. Stethoscope dangling like a noose. Guilt gnawed as I covered him with a blanket, whispering apologies to the dark. The next day, we instituted recharge rituals, no phones Fridays, where we'd unplug and wander the Met, losing ourselves in ancient lovers' gazes captured in marble. Winter blanketed Brooklyn in white. Our first holiday season post-reunion, a deliberate reclaiming. No ER graveyard shifts. I'd bartered favors for Christmas Eve off. We hosted a potluck with Center Kids' queer found family. Tables groaning under mac and cheese and lax. Stories weaving through laughter. Elias gifted me a custom stethoscope charm. Engraved "Listen to Us." A reminder to tune into heartbeats beyond the clinical. His gift to the group, impromptu portraits. Capturing joy in quick strokes. One kid, a shy non-binary teen named Riley, beamed at their likeness. "No one's ever seen me like that," they said, hugging him fierce. That moment crystallized a tour. Love wasn't isolated. It rippled, mending fractures in others. Yet intimacy demanded vigilance. Therapy evolved into couple sessions, where Dr. Rivera challenged us. Vulnerability isn't a one-time reveal. It's daily practice. Elias opened about his body dysmorphia flares. How success spotlights amplified old insecurities from playground taunts. I confessed the imposter syndrome gnawing at my ER prowess, the fear that one misdiagnosis would unravel everything. We held space, not solutions, learning that love thrives in the mess. Spring thawed the city, and with it, Elias's residency bloomed. His installation, Temporal Threads, debuted to acclaim. Interactive sculptures of clock faces warped by rainbow prisms. Visitors tracing paths of delayed dreams coming out at 40. Loves rekindled after loss. Critics lauded the profound humanism. But for us, it was catharsis. Threads rewoven from our near unraveling. I stood in the gallery's throng. Badge clipped to my collar like a badge of honor for showing up. Elias caught my eye across the crowd, mouthing thank you. Later, under gallery lights, we danced to a busker's violin outside. Bodies close, world fading. "You're my constant," he murmured, forehead to mine. "And you're my pause," I replied, the word heavy with meaning. As cherry blossoms peaked, we planned ahead, not grand escapes, but sustainable rhythms. A joint savings for a down payment. Therapy check-ins. Annual smoke clears, retreats to the Catskills, where we'd first vowed eternity. One evening, post-shift, I found him on our fire escape, sketching the skyline. I joined, legs dangling over the edge. "City hum below. Remember the note?" I asked softly. He nodded, pencil pausing. "Like yesterday. But look at us now, still here. Still choosing." Smoke from a distant chimney curled upward. Ephemeral tracer. It didn't haunt anymore. It reminded. We'd chased shadows, nearly lost in them, but emerged into light's guard. Yes, but luminous. Our story wasn't fairy tale. It was flesh and fight. Time's cruel bend yielding to deliberate grace. In loving through the misses, we'd forged something enduring, not perfection, but presence. And in that, we saved each other. One breath, one beat, at a time. Summer's swelter descended on New York like a fever dream, the asphalt shimmering under relentless sun. Elias's residency had catapulted him into a whirlwind interviews with queer arts podcasts, collaborations with drag collectives. His name whispered in lofts from Bushwick to the Bowery. I watched him bloom, that quiet pride swelling in my chest, mingled with a whisper of envy for the freedom his days allowed. My world remained the ER's unyielding pulse, gunshot wounds from block parties gone wrong, heatstroke victims collapsing in subways, the endless triage of urban despair. Each case etched deeper lines around my eyes. But Elias's success was my anchor dinners where he'd recount sold pieces, his excitement infectious, pulling me from the day's detritus. Yet cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. A late July night, I stumbled home at 2 a.m., the apartment aglow from his all-nighters on a commission for a nonprofit's pride campaign. He was at the drafting table, eyes bloodshot, coffee mugs forming a fortress around him. Go to bed, I murmured, kissing his temple, tasting salt of sweat and focus. In a bit, he replied, not looking up. This deadline's killer. I showered alone, the water scalding away phantom blood, and slid into bed to the scratch of his pencil persisting. Sleep evaded, my mind replaying the evening's code. A father, mid-40s, DOA from a heart attack, his partner's wail echoing as I called time. What if that's us? The thought lodged like shrapnel. Morning brought confrontation, gentle but insistent. Over toast and jam. I broached it. You're burning out too. We can't both be ghosts in this marriage. He set down his mug. Gaze steady. Pot. Kettle. Doc. At least my ghosts pay rent. Sting landed. But truth did too. We agreed to a pact, mutual check-ins. No all-nighters without negotiation. A shared calendar app color-coded like a battlefield map. It felt clinical at first, but structure-bred space-lazy Sundays in bed, debating Rothko's queerness over mimosas, or volunteering at the center's youth art therapy, where Elias mentored and I facilitated health talks. One such session, a teen named Jordan 17, assigned female at birth, navigating top surgery consult shared a poem about time's theft, seconds stolen by stairs, minutes mended in mirrors. Elias illustrated it on the spot, watercolors bleeding into verses of reclamation. Watching them bond, I felt the ripple our pains transmuted into purpose, healing beyond our walls. Autumn whispered change again, leaves turning like pages in a well-worn journal. Elias's exhibit tour kicked off, pop-ups in Chicago, panels in San Francisco, cities that pulled him westward while I rooted in Brooklyn's grit. Our first separation post-reunion was a test video calls at odd hours. Care packages of his favorite Harlem soul food shipped overnight. In his absence, the apartment echoed, but I filled it deliberately, cooking classes online, learning knife skills not for surgery but sustenance, runs along the promenade, pounding pavement to podcasts on queer history, from Audre Lorde to modern activists. Jamie dragged me to a drag brunch, where glitter-flecked queens roasted my straight-passing savior vibe, laughter cracking open spaces I'd armored shut. Elias's call from O'Hare, post-flight, crackled with fatigue. Miss you. The panel was fire talked about our story. Anonymized. Of course. How time warps love under pressure. Miss you more, I said, voice thick. Brought home a stray thought. Let's adopt a dog when you're back. Something to ground us. His chuckle warmed the line. A furball witness to our chaos. Deal. He returned with stories and scarce a heckler at the Q&A, slinging slurs from the back row. Security escorting him out as Elias held composure, voice unwavering on intersectional erasure. We processed it over Thai takeout, his head in my lap as I stroked his hair. It hurts, he admitted, but it fuels me. Can't let them dim the light. Pride in his fire steeled me for my own battles. The ER's holiday rush loomed. Flu season colliding with holiday blues, suicide attempts spiking. Overdoses from festive excesses. I advocated for a wellness program. Peer support circles for staff. Drawing from our therapy toolkit. Administration balked at costs. But I persisted, rallying colleagues with data on burnout rates in queer healthcare workers. Victory came small, bi-weekly debriefs in the lounge. Coffee and couches where we unloaded not just cases, but lives intersecting with ours. A nurse shared her wife's cancer fight. A tech confessed family rejection. Threads of solidarity wove tighter, reminding me healing's communal. Winter solstice brought our pup rescued, mutt named Sage. A wiry terrier mix with eyes like Elias's. Soulful and searching. Training him became ritual, leashes tangled in dawn walks. His eager pulls mirroring our stumbles toward balance. Sage curled between us at night. A living bridge over old chasms. Elias's tour wrapped with a homecoming show at our local community center. Threads unravel, pieces evolved. Now incorporating Sage's paw prints and margins. Whimsy amid weight. The crowd was intimate, center families. ER allies. My sister video calling from Ohio with teary cheers. Post-show. As we walked Sage under street lamps. Snow flurrying soft. Elias stopped. This year, we didn't just survive. We grew. I pulled him close. Sage yipping approval. Roots deeper. Branches wider. But growth invites pruning. Spring unearthed Elias's restlessness, a job offer from a LA gallery. Curating queer exhibits for a streaming docuseries. It's huge, he said, pacing. But it means leaving for good. The question hung, heavy as humidity. We waited, my ER unmovable. His career ascending. Long distance loomed. A specter we'd banished once. Nights dissolved into debate, prose of sun-soaked inspiration. Cons of miles eroding touch. DR. Rivera mediated. Choice isn't zero-sum. What if it's expansion, not exile? We visited LA incognito. Sage and toe hikes in Griffith Park. Tacos in Boyle Heights. Gallery crawls pulsing with West Coast vibrancy. Elias lit up, sketching murals of Chicano queer icons. Yet on the flight home, his hand gripped mine white-knuckled. I can't lose you again. Nor I you. I vowed. Compromise crystallized. He'd consult remotely. Quarterly immersions. Our love a transcontinental thread. Summer solstice marked the pivot. Elias's hybrid role launched. Suitcases half-packed for his first stint. Airport goodbye was ache sweet, Sage whining in his carrier. Our kiss lingering amid announcements. Call every dawn. He whispered. I will. Build empires. But come home. Months of separation honed us sharper. My ER evolved, promoted to attending. Leading trainings on trauma-informed care for LGBTQ+ patients. Weaving Elias's art into modules as visual aids for empathy. His series premiered to Emmy's buzz. Episodes dissecting temporal injustices, delayed adoptions for gay couples, delayed transitions under bans. We bridged distance with intention, virtual dates synced to sunsets. Care packages of Brooklyn bagels for him. LA hot sauce for me. Sage adapted, curling at my feet during calls. His tail thumping as Elias cooed through the screen. Reunion in autumn was fireworks, him bursting through JFK. Arms laden with prints for our walls. We collapsed into bed. Bodies rediscovering contours. Whispers mapping the interim's growth. You're radiant, I murmured, tracing his jaw. As are you, he replied. eyes tracing mine. This distance. It clarified, you're my horizon. Thanksgiving brought family fusion me parents venturing east. Tentative bridges over Turkey and Tofurky. Dad shook Elias's hand firm, complimenting his series. Mom hugged Sage like kin. Elias's aunt from Harlem joined. Her stories of 80s ballroom balls weaving legacy. As pie steamed on the sill, we carved space for hard talks, future kids, via surrogacy or adoption, navigating a nation of flux. Fears surfaced me workaholic ghosts. His visibility's perils, but so did dreams, a home with room for chaos. Art, medicine, mutts. Winter's hush, gifted reflection. Elias's book Deal Landita memoir graphic novel hybrid. Smoke and Stitches, chronicling our arc. Co-authoring chapters became foreplay, my clinical prose tempered by his lyric visuals. Raw truths illustrated tender. One blizzard-bound night. Snow muffling the world. We read drafts aloud by firelight sage snoring at our feet. Laughter at foibles. Tears at trials. Pride and perseverance. This is our testament, Elias said, closing the manuscript. To time's mercy, I added, toasting with cocoa, and love's defiance. As pages turned toward publication, so did Wedoward's spring wedding. Small and fierce, under Brooklyn's blooming bows. Vows exchanged amid center kin. Sage as ring-bearer, promising not just forever, but fidelity to growth. Our journey, etched in anniversaries missed and mended, taught that love isn't stasis. It's evolution. Smoke yielding to clarity. Hearts sinking through tempests. In choosing daily, we claimed eternity not flawless, but fiercely ours. The wedding veil of spring unfurled gently. Cherry petals confetti-ing our path to the altar, a makeshift arch in the center's garden, woven with rainbow ribbons and Elias's sketched vines. 50 souls gathered, warriors in khakis, artists in eclectic prints, family from fractured fronts now fused in fragile unity. My sister officiated, voice steady as she bound our hands with a cord dyed in pride hues. Do you, Brooks Harlan, take Elias Washington to honor through every shift and stillness, every dawn and departure? I do. I choked, eyes locked on his. The man who'd taught me love's latitude. And you, Elias, to cherish through canvases and calls, presences and pauses. With all my art and heart. I do. Rings slid on simple bands etched with coordinates of our first kiss, sealing vows not in perfection, but promise. Sage bounded through, nipping at the cord till it snapped. Cheers erupting as we kissed. Salt of happy tears mingling. Receptions spilled into the street. Food trucks belching falafel and fusion. A DJ spinning house remixes of Motown. Jamie pulled me aside. Mascara smudged. You did it. Brooks. Built the life you deserved. We did. I corrected, glancing at Elias twirling a kid in circles. Laughter free as birdsong. Honeymoon was humble, a week in Provincetown, Cape Cod's queer haven, where dunes whispered secrets and whales breached horizons. We biked trails lined with pitch pine, picnicked on beaches where lighthouses stood sentinel. Nights tangled in a loft overlooking the harbor, bodies mapping familiar terrains with renewed reverencino rush. Just revelation. Elias sketched the gulls wheeling at dusk, their cries echoing our early uncertainties. Here, time feels generous, he mused, charcoal smudging his fingers. I traced the lines on his palm. Because we're present. No sirens. No deadlines, just us. Return to rhythm brought realities. My promotions demanded more. Leading a task force on inclusive protocols amid rising anti-trans legislation. Elias's book tour loomed. Smoke and Stitches hitting shelves with pre-orders surging from podcast plugs. Launch night at a Williamsburg bookstore was electric cues snaking the block. Fans clutching arcs. His reading voice cracking on our anniversary chapter. I sat front row, heart swelling as he credited me. To Brooks, my editor in Scrubs, who stitched my words when smoke obscured. Q&A delved deep. A fan asked about resilience's roots. It's communal, Elias replied. Our love's a tapestry threads from mentors. Mishaps. The queer chorus that carries us. Post-signing. We walked home under harvest moon. Book tucked under his arm like talisman. This book's our map, he said, marking where we've been, charting where we're going. Fall deepened. Leaves a mosaic underfoot. Holiday prep intertwined with heavier lifts. My father's health scary a mild stroke. Ohio calling me home for scans and solace. Elias came, hand in mine as we navigated hospital halls that mirrored my daily domain. Irony not lost. Dad, pale in his gown, gripped my wrist. Didn't raise you to worry like this. Son. His eyes flicked to Elias. But glad you're both here. Makes the fight easier. Elias charmed the nurses with sketches. Lightning rooms. On the drive back, Dad admitted. Used to think love like yours was fleeting. Seeing you too. It's the real deal. Tears blurred the interstate. Progress. Incremental as 4 drips. Winter wove wonders and woes. Elias's book climbed charts. Invitations flooding for keynotes on queer narratives in time-scarce lives. I balanced with boundaries. Delegating rounds to residents. Carving evenings for sages' walks, and our ritual, 1 page from the book. Discussed over wine. A chapter on phantom shifts hit hard his depiction of my ER absences as spectral lovers. Haunting our bed. Reading it aloud. Voice faltering. I confronted. I was blind to the cost. He cupped my face. And now you're seeing. That's the stitch. New Year's dawned with intention, a vision board session. Magazine clippings of homes in Crown Heights. IVF consults for surrogacy dreams. Travel pins for queer festivals abroad. Sage pawed at the glue. Adding paw prints to our future. But fate's hand turned capricious. Spring brought Elias a fellowship in Berlin 6 months, curating at a queer archive. Excavating lost histories of Stonewall-era exiles. It's once in a lifetime, he urged. Maps spread across our table. My gut twisted another chasm. And us. The for better or worse doesn't specify continents. We consulted Dr. Rivera. Her office a sanctuary of succulents. Separation can strengthen, if rooted in trust. She counseled. Or strain, if unexamined. Debates raged, my career's tether. His nomadic spirit. The specter of past smoke. Compromise emerged. I joined for a month. Remote ER consults via telehealth pilots. Hybrid hearts. Elias quipped, sealing it with a kiss. JFK farewell was bittersweet sage to Jamie's kennel. Suitcases stuffed with his hoodies for scent comfort. Berlin greeted with graffiti-strewn streets. Currywurst stalls. And an apartment overlooking the spree. Elias dove into archives. Unearthing letters from 1920s gay poets. His excitement electric over video lags. I arrived to rain-slicked cobbles. His arms enveloping at Tegel. We wandered Tiergarten. Hand in hand defying stairs. Picnicked on pretzels and prose. My teleshifts grounded me prescribing from a laptop. Brooklyn cases beamed across Atlantic. The disconnect humbling yet innovative. Evenings were ours, bike rides to Brandenburg Gate, where we'd debate history's queer erasures. His sketches capturing Berlin's layered souls. One night, at a cabaret echoing Weimar ghosts, he whispered, "This city's time bent past and present colliding. Like us." My month flew. Return wrenching. Airport embrace lingered. Promises pixelated in parting. Solo months tested, My team ribbed my European accent. Elias's calls crackled with archive tales, diaries of lovers parted by wars. Reunions defying odds. He returned midsummer. Sun-kissed and story-laden. Sage leaping manic. Over rooftop barbecues. He shared artifacts, a locket from a lesbian couple. Engraved Eternal. Reminded me of us. Time tests, but doesn't conquer. Fall's harvest yielded fruit. Surrogacy match, a college friend of Jamie's. Eager to carry our story. Consults blended hope and hurdle legalities in flux post-row echoes. But our clinic's queer-affirming team navigated with grace. Elias illustrated our family folktale. Whimsical panels of two dads and a babe adventuring NYC. Ultrasounds became art sessions. Blob shapes morphing into dreams. Winter solstice. Positive beta confirmed. We toasted with non-alcoholic fizz. Center kin toasting back. To legacies woven. Elias beamed. Hand on my belly, vicarious thrill. But gestation's glow carried shadows. Elias's burnout resurfaced, book tour residuals. Fellowship afterglow fading into freelance famine. Feel like I'm chasing vapors again. He confessed. Staring at blank canvases. I mirrored, metrics pressured. A malpractice scare from a misread scan rattling confidence. Therapy tandem, burnout's a signal. Dr. Rivera urged. Pause. Recalibrate. We pivoted, sabbatical for him. Funded by book royalties. I cut hours. Mentoring residents. A month off-grid in the Adirondacks, Gabon by lake. Sage splashing shores. Us hiking trails where whispers of wilderness quieted inner storms. There, under star-pricked skies, Elias sketched our unborn's nursery mural, forests of possibility. Figures hand in hand. This pause, he said, it's mending. Spring's bloom aligned with baby showers, gender neutral. Joy-focused. Onesies painted with his motifs. Labor loomed as metaphor, our love's birthing. Pains yielding profound. Delivery day dawned, frantic surrogates, waters breaking at dawn. Us dashing to the birthing center. Hours blurred, contractions timed. Elias's hand crushed in hers. My medical brain on standby. Heart in overdrive. Cry pierced at 3:17 p.m. Juniper. 7 pounds even. Tiny fists flailing like victors. Elias wept first. Cradling her swaddled form. I followed. Stethoscope to her chest. Heartbeat a symphony of new beginnings. Homecoming was chaos sublime. Sage sniffing curiously. Nursery aglow with murals. Nights of feeds and fusses forging us fathers. Sleepless. Yes. But saturated, Elias's lullabies sketched into songs. My shifts trimmed to dad duty. Anniversary 6 approached. Juniper 3 months. Colicky but cooing. We marked it simple. Park picnic. Her gurgling between us. Sage guarding crumbs. Missed one once. Elias teased. Gained a universe. Best trade. I agreed. Kissing his temple. Her tiny hand in mine. Parenthood reframed, time days elastic. Nights eternal. Love exponential. Challenges came. Colic cries echoing old absences. Societal side eyes at 2 dad strollers. But we leaned in, center playgroups. Elias's workshops for queer parents. My talks on paternal leave equity. Juniper's first pride. In her carrier. Rainbow bonnet askew. We marched legacy in arms. History in steps. Her babble harmonized with chants. Elias sketching the float. Me carrying the sign, love saves lives. Our arc. From smoke's sting to this symphony. Affirmed, time's not thief. But teacher. Through fractures and forges. We'd crafted not just survival. But sung a human hymn of chosen kin. Enduring embrace.